Thank you for coming back on time. I have invited our fourth keynote speaker for this conference. He's from our new partner, NORDUNet. I will join me in welcoming Lars Fischer to do a presentation on integrated and ubiquitous infrastructures with open exchanges.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed your lunch break. And thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm very honored to have been allowed to come here. It's my first time in Lebanon. It's my first time in the lovely city of Beirut. I'm really enjoying being here. And it's a big honor to be allowed to come here and speak to you. So I'll talk to you about open exchanges and why I and why we at NORDUNet believe that they're important for facilitating e-infrastructures on a global scale. So a little bit about who I am and where I come from. I'm from NORDUNet, an organization that serves a region that is very different from this. It's much colder, much darker this time of year. I heard yesterday morning that there was snow in the mountains. It sort of pleased me because where I come from, snow is something we understand. It makes me feel a little bit more at home. My region is composed of 5 countries: Denmark, Norway, Finland, Sweden, and Iceland. And together, they have their own networks, their own organizations, but together they decided to form NORDUNet as an organization that will help them have international connectivity, help them connect to each other, and help them in general do global initiatives and do international collaborations. So it's not part of NORDUNet's mission to help all the Nordic countries engage with the Arabic world and be present here. So they all have their own NREN, they all operate their own institutions, but NORDUNet exists as a limited company owned by each of the 5 countries equally, doing whatever they ask us to do. So they're really my masters. They tell me how I should build a network or what kind of service we should offer. As I said, each of the Nordic countries run networks on their own, so they're very fine mesh, despite part of this region being very, very far to the north. All of these networks are in general now getting to be 100 gig networks, certainly at least 10 gigabit networks, even to places like Spitsbergen, which is closer to the North Pole than to anything else. The Nordic countries have this view that it doesn't have to matter where the scientists decide to work or where people live. If they go to a student of higher learning, they have to be able to have the same level of service that they would have if they lived in the capital. So there is networking everywhere in the Nordic countries. So we're very, very fortunate to be able to do this, and we're very fortunate to have very nice networks in all the countries. So those are operated by national entities. They run their own show. NORDUNet doesn't do that, and NORDUNet doesn't connect to universities. The University in Stockholm will be connected to SUNET in Sweden. University in Oslo will be connected to UNINET in Norway, and so on. What NORDUNet does is connect them to the rest of the world. So we connect these countries to each other. We have a network in Scandinavia that just connects the capitals. And then we have a network into the rest of the world. And of course, a primary partner for us is Xi'an, that connects us to the rest of Europe, so we have some networking going south where we can meet Xi'an. But we also have network, of course, we have Iceland is one of our partners, so we have one of our members, so we have, of course, networking into there. But then we have network into the US, we have networks into places where there are key instruments that we want to use. We heard earlier today about CERN, so we have our own network, 100 gig network to CERN, because we have researchers who want to use that. So that is what NORDUNet does, build a network and build the relations that go through that network to support Nordic research and education, to help the Nordic environments do what they need to do. So why do we do that? We do it because we have researchers that do all kinds of things. With educators, with students who work in all kinds of fields, with all kinds of material. Since I'm from Scandinavia, or from the Nordic countries, you will probably mostly associate a Nordic researcher with somebody who sits on the ice sheet, looking at polar fish or whatever it is he's looking at there, doing climate research, very important for us. But we also have people who do very different things, researchers who work in space, even though very few are fortunate enough to go into space, but there's a few who do that even. We certainly have lots of researchers who work in a lab, somebody who is partner in a project that builds a very large set of radio telescopes in Australia, in the plains of South Africa, in the mountaintop in Chile. And they want to do their analysis, they want to do their work, and it's our job to make sure, and I think it's the job of all of us who work in the R&D networking sector, that we must make sure that they can do that, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, no matter what time they want to do it. they always have to be able to collaborate. So anyone, anywhere, anytime is part of the NORDUnet mission statement. We must do that. We must be able to make sure that all these people can work together, that they can all do their work, no matter where they are and what they're doing. And working for them means for all of them, no matter if they're on the ice sheet in space or in a mountaintop in Chile, they have to be able to transfer their data. They have to be able to get to big data repositories. They have to be able to share their data with each other, reach supercomputers and so on. So there must be networking. Everything must work. And not just networking. It must be an integrated infrastructure where they can use the networking to reach all the scientific computing, all the instruments, all the things they need to do their work. So that's our job. So I spoke of having this integrated e-infrastructure. So we have this landscape, really, of infrastructures where we have the network at the bottom. That's the bedrock on which we build everything. We have storage and repositories of data built on that. We have the AAI, the identity management, so we can access it. We have computation, HPC centers. We heard Eve talk about that earlier today. We have scientific instruments like the LHC that we heard about earlier today. And then we have observations that the scientists make. We have ideas that generate from that. We have the talent and knowledge that they built, all the young people with aspirations so important in this region, in the Arabic region, that will help the region evolve. We have all that we must promote the human collaboration, the interaction. That is what we have to do, and that in total is what we call e-science. So all of this is really our mission, to make sure this can happen. And it can only happen if we build the bedrock and all the things at the bottom and make them integrate and make them work together. Otherwise, all the other stuff can't really happen. So that is our mission, to make sure that we can support all this. So I'll talk about one component that we feel is instrumental in making sure that we can build this integration and making this ambitious, making sure it happens everywhere. This is what we call an open exchange. Like so many good ideas in the RNE sector, in RNE networking certainly, it comes out of SurfNet, out of the Netherlands. SurfNet has always been a trusted partner of NORDUnet, mostly because they have so many good ideas that we can steal and run with it. So the open exchange is like an internet exchange, like the AM6 in London or like the London Internet Exchange. It's a point where lots of different people who have big connections, or big services, large storage facilities, sorry, can come and meet each other and connect in one place. And rather than being everywhere connected to each other in a confusing manner, they can be efficient by being in the same place and connect to each other, all of them. So in the Nordic area, we run 2 of those. We have one in Hamburg where we connect to other internet exchanges, other open exchanges, because of course we want to connect to each other. So we connect from there to Netherlight in Amsterdam. We connect to Xiang Open, a very important facility run by Xiang in London. We also connect to some other networks. And we run one in Helsinki. And the one in Helsinki is very important for us because that connects to what we think of as the East. From there we connect into Russia. There's several Russian networks that fill up there with their connections, with their data, with their scientists. And we help them from there get connected into the rest of Europe. And even in Helsinki, the Finnish Internet Exchange is connected there with several service providers. So everybody who's connected at that open exchange can get to Google and the Google caches and so on that are connected there. So it's a very, very important resource for research. So for example, Russian research institutions like the Khrushchev Institute know that if they want to reach the West, all they have to do is come to Helsinki and connect to there, then they're connected to the rest of the world. So resources like that are very, very important. And we have used open exchanges as a backbone for interconnecting large collaboration across the world. This is just one such collaboration called the Outer Goal. All the little stars here are open exchanges all around the globe that have been interconnected in various ways, and people are running experiments on that, and they can work globally in Japan, in Korea, all across the US and Canada, and many places in Europe with each other, because they have this flexible interconnection based on a simple infrastructure element like an exchange point where they can connect from one to the other and build their collaboration based on that. So that we see that as very important for us to facilitate the creation of such resources so that researchers can do their research in a flexible manner and create something that is ambitious and integrated. The network of open exchanges, we have evolved over the years a very simple model of how we do that. We say we have a user over here who's using a resource over there. The resource could be a cloud provider, it could be Google, it could be a private cloud run by Red Iris in Spain. It could be a telescope in Tenerife. It could be an instrument like the LHC. It can be anything. So we have the user, of course, is connected to our RNE network, an NREN. And the resource is also connected to an NREN. But between those, there is something. And that something to us is this mesh of open exchanges that have big trunks that connect them, high capacity length. And when we want to create a connection from the user to the resource, what we do is we ask these open exchanges to facilitate that so that that user and that user's NREN gets connected to the other end. It's a very flexible way. It can be just IP peering, but it can also be circuits. It can be automated so that we have different systems for making sure that those circuits or whatever it is the user needs to facilitate that is possible. So that user can reach any resource anywhere in the world. Again, anyone, anywhere, anytime. Oh, sorry about that. So in NORDUNet, we have used open exchanges as building blocks. They're very important for us. So when we build our network, I showed you our global network, but our European network is built with open exchanges. So when we build our network, the locations we decided to connect to were places that had open exchanges. So there's one in Amsterdam, one in London, one in Geneva, and we have two of our own, one in Helsinki and one in Hamburg. So our network essentially connects those and makes it possible for us to get from one open exchange to the other, and there, then we can have our connectivity to the US, to other countries, to Russia, and so on and so forth. So that is the way we can connect to the world, by being sure we are present at open exchanges. So we use that for our global expansion, with open exchanges everywhere, across the US and in Europe. That's where we connect. We center on the open exchange and make sure that's where we want to connect. If we want to connect where in the US will we land our next circuit, we will pick a place with an open exchange, because we know if we are at an open exchange, we can meet everybody else who's present there. There will be something to connect to. So for these open exchanges around the world, we can connect to other RNE networks all around the globe. We can connect to cloud providers on the American continent or on the European continent, and make sure that we can offer Scandinavian researchers that no matter which cloud provider they want to use, NORDUNet is connected directly to those. And of course, we can connect to IP upstream, so if we want to do settlement-free peering and not pay for our internet transit. Again, we know that they are near open exchanges, so the open exchanges are also our facilitator for being sure we can do a very good IP transit service for all our users, and in fact for many other European NRENs who use our transit service, such as SUFNet. So we've also used open exchanges as a vehicle for global collaboration, because we realize that there's an advantage to doing things together. Some things like transatlantic circuits, we can't pay for them ourselves, so we formed a consortium with other NRENs and built this thing with several connections across the Atlantic. The important point of that for us is that both on the European side and on the US side, or the North American side, all the circuits land at open exchanges. So we know we can connect further on from there. It doesn't land in some black spot where we can't get further. It lands in a big open exchange with lots and lots of other RNE actors present and where we can connect. So for NORDUNet, with this ANA system, that incidentally Alexander will tell us more about later, NORDUNet connects to the open exchanges in London, in Amsterdam, in New York, and in Washington, and from there we can reach all our network in Europe and all our network in North America, but we use the open exchanges as the key sites, the key building blocks for making sure we can connect the pieces. This is essential for us. And it's important to point out here that none of these open exchanges that we use for this are NORDUNet resources. Netherlight is run by SUFNet. Shang Open is run by Shang. ManLAN and VIX in Washington are run by Internet 2. But they're very, very critical components of our infrastructure. We use them as if they were our own, because we work with partners globally that we trust. We trust Shang, we trust SUFNet, we trust Internet 2 to run these critical facilities in a way that we can use them and depend upon them for our global network needs. And I think this is very, very important. A key thing that differentiates, I've worked a lot in industry also, the key thing that differentiates the RNE sector from the industrial sector, that we can work in partnerships in that way. We trust SUFNet and Shang in Europe to run dependable resources. We're not competitors, that they won't interrupt our service, we won't interrupt theirs. We can work together and use these joint resources. This is very important. And this is applicable all over the world. We can come together as RNE networks and build these joint resources that we can use. And in fact, we have used this principle in Europe, that several networks have deployed fiber systems across Europe And some of these are now being used, all of these between London, Amsterdam, Hamburg, Brussels, and Geneva, which is further south, have several networks on it. David West told us yesterday about a terabit link that is in Europe. That's the link there between Amsterdam, Netherlands, and Hamburg. And that is, in fact, the reason it's a terabit scale is that it's not just Shang on it. It's Shang, it's Surfnet, it's the Polish network PSNC, and it's NORDUNet, all sharing the same fiber, all optimizing costs. And the reason we can do that again is at both ends it connects to an open exchange. So we're very sure that we reach some place where we can get further on, and we can all have a place to meet and share the capacity. Again, very important for sharing. And we're now trying to take that idea at a global scale. We have evolved something called the Global Network Architecture. It's an effort of a global RNE networking community. Jim Getbain, who spoke to us yesterday from Canary, is a very important player in that, but like several other networks are very important. Shang is an actor in this. And the idea here, this is an artist's impression of what it would look like, is to find open exchange points all across the globe and then use those as focal points for big transcontinental links. Because the costly element of most RNE networks isn't the connections here inside Beirut, it's the international links. So we will find a way to leverage the expensive and powerful transatlantic or trans-Pacific or trans-Mediterranean links in a way where several people or several networks can come together and share a link to another world region. So we build a system where each region has a couple of exchange points, and then we interlink the regions by connecting from one exchange point to the other, leveraging the connections and making sure everybody gets the benefit and everybody in a region is connected when there is just an exchange point in their region. And it means that in your region, all you have to do to get global networking is connect to one or two exchange points because the global network is there. So open exchanges are key building blocks for this global network architecture. So with that, we're getting to a situation where we have users, we have institutions, we have NRENs with lots of services like eDROAM that we heard about. We have HPC centers with big computers that Eve told us about. We have commercial cloud providers who lots of us use for all kinds of things, for storage, for infrastructure as a service that we heard about. We have scientific instruments like VLHC. We have academic cloud resources. We have public data repositories for all kinds of medical or genomic data that, again, Eve told us about. And then we have open exchanges. And if we just connect all of these to open exchanges, then the open exchanges will be connected to other open exchanges all over the world, and we will have a mechanism for integrating through the global network architecture the whole world of RNE networking and make sure that e-infrastructure is really present anywhere to anyone at any time, and it's ubiquitous for everybody to use. So this is making it ubiquitous and making sure it's present everywhere. So we're sharing the connections. It's very important, again, I think, in the RNE sector that we can share. So we have an open exchange point, a user at a university. All that you have to do to get to a resource, connect the user to an exchange point. Connect a cloud provider or an instrument or whatever it is, resource, to an exchange point directly, or connect it through another NREN to an exchange point, and then have big networks like NORDUNet, like Xiang, like Internet 2 offer transit between the exchange point, which is our business, and then the user is connected to whatever the resource is. It's a simple model, simple to understand, simple to cost share, simple to provision, simple to have policies for, and yet it offers everybody a chance to be connected to the global setting. So with that, we have all the system that I talked about before, but we have really below the bedrock, the thing that everything rests upon is these open exchanges that hold everything up and make sure we can realize the rest of it. And so I will leave you with this idea. I think we heard earlier today briefly about the AJAX, or whatever the name is going to be, an open exchange point in the Arab region. I think that is very important. You can have from here big trunks that everybody can share so that all networks in the area can come together and have big network connections into Europe, into the Pacific region, into Asia, and into Africa. And I think it's very important because this region has always been the meeting point between worlds. It's always been the place where Africa, Asia, and Europe comes together with the Mediterranean ends where everything meets. And it's always been a melting pot of cultures. And now it can always also be a melting pot for networks. And this is very important because leveraging that, rather than each network being connected to each of these places, you can have one place that is connected with very big capacity to Europe to Asia and to Africa, and then everybody shares and leverages that. So that is very important for connecting the region. But it is much more than that, because all of us in Europe would like to get to Asia. Eve spoke about getting big connections from Singapore to Europe. Us in Europe, we really like to get big connections to Singapore, to Hong Kong, to everywhere. But it would be much easier if all we had to do was to build our big connections from Amsterdam or from Copenhagen to Beirut or anywhere else in the Arabic region, and from there we would trust that there will be other connections leading further on to Africa or further on to Asia, because then we didn't have to have the big long link that goes all the way to Singapore. We could just connect here. So it's not just very advantageous for the region to have an open exchange point, it's also connecting the world. It's helping all of us build an R&D network that connects everybody to each other. And that also means that there will be interest from Europe, for example, to invest in big links going to this place, because we would know that from that place we could get further on to Africa or further on to Asia. So it has a big advantage for everybody. So that's the story I wanted to tell you. We think open exchanges is very important. NORDUNet is building our network with open exchanges as the key element for our international outreach. We are promoting the global network architecture together with our partners like Canary, like Internet 2, like Surfnet, like Shell. We think this will revolutionize how the global R&D sector is building networks, and we very, very much invite and welcome the Arab world to join this effort. So, thank you very much. And I don't know if you want to do questions now, or to be the case. Was all clear? Thank you very much.